reaction time. So yeah, I'm not loving the fact that she is still sort of in this outfit. But all in all, I think that Norway is kind of doing what they typically do, which is, copy and paste, which other countries do. And I mean, I guess there's something to be said for like, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it too much. But I do sort of feel like the one thing that I really, really feel like this performance needed just to elevate it and to really put it solidly in that winner potential conversation was completely different styling. I would prefer her in like armor or something like that, like something like where she's like preparing for battle, because this is the thing. When you've got on sort of that like bustier leotard type of situation, that's to like indicate like dancing, and she's not dancing. Also, the staging still seems to look a little bit dark, and I would have just lightened it up a little bit more. That's my first thought. Oh my goodness, y'all. I wish that there was a world that Malta was going to be in the grand final. And maybe that's possible. Maybe I should keep hope alive. Malta really seems to be elevating from what they already sort of did in the national selection, which I think was smart, because what they did at the national selection was great. I hate that they've been put in the second slot. Like, really hate that they've been put in the second slot when they could have just won. I love the fact that they brought all the props back. I feel like the styling is right. Honestly, this is slick. I mean, of course, it's nothing really that surprising. I followed all the national selections this year, but this is good. And man, I really wish that there was a world that Malta could make it. Maybe they can. Serbia is upgrading and basically just elevating from what they already did at the national selection. And I'm happy to see it because I think the concept was already strong. It was already there. I mean, this is a first rehearsal. They're giving us basically breadcrumbs of what is happening. So I can't give you like a deep dive. But I guess it gives us enough to know whether people are on the right track or if maybe they've deviated too much and Serbia is not deviating. They're making us happy. They're doing us proud because I think they are just sort of doing some small tweaks. The outfit is a little bit different. You can see with the set pieces, they've done some tweaks. Even the LEDs seem to be a little bit more upgraded. It seems like it's not like the exact same stuff. And that's really what you want to do. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And really now you have the opportunity to have access to more tech. So elevate where you can elevate. Good job, Serbia. Latvia, really? Why are those lights still on the stage? Were you not listening to any of us? We basically were like, you could do anything else. You could even probably just get away with doing just like a straightforward, rock performance without the lights. We want y'all to qualify. We kind of need y'all to qualify at this point. But with them lights there, I'm just feeling like you're kind of like, yeah, we don't have to. I mean, y'all know how I feel about this song. I really wanted to qualify. My only issue was the lights. It's just not going to be enough. We've seen them on the stage before. This just wasn't it, y'all. This just wasn't it. And, now it just makes me more worried than I already was for Latvia this year. They needed to do something else. They needed something else. Hopefully, maybe the camera angles, maybe there might be some augmented reality, but they needed a hook. They needed something else. So Portugal has surprised me today. I feel like they're going with like a little bit cleaner, a little bit slicker of a television kind of production show style thing, as opposed to sort of leaning into the cabaret musical theater elements that I think they sort of presented with the couch and the prop in the national selection. I don't think that this is a bad surprise, though. I'm actually liking this. I will say, I think either route could have worked. I think, doing something a little bit slicker is a path. And I think doing something a little bit more frenetic, a little bit more of that theater aspect is a path. I think ultimately it's two pathways that are going to mean that Portugal is going to qualify. This is qualifying. It's qualifying. Like, it's just so clean. I think people at home are going to eat this up. If they loved Ola Mi Bebe, they will love this. So I don't know why I set this one to 3 minutes, but I set this one to 3 minutes. Okay, first of all, do we need the steps? No. Did we need a gold staircase? No. But this is a Eurovision Song Contest. And when you are a country that doesn't have a great track record, like, you got to do everything that you can, okay? You got to do everything that you can and that the budget allows for it. So I will just start off and say, I actually really like the styling. Anyone who wants to come for this styling, I would just tell them, what would you have rather them wear? Clothes like them going to the mall? Like you would have rather them look like they were going to the mall? They're on the stage. This is a stage piece. They are performers. This is a show. I want clothes. I want actual styling. So I appreciate the clothes. I appreciate the fact that we're actually getting styling. I mentioned the set piece of the steps. No, we don't need those steps. And the way that he was coming down the steps, come on now. We got to finesse it. If we're going to have them, we need to know how to use them. You know what I mean? And I would say that to a woman walking down the steps too. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to be fair. Ultimately, do I think that this is going to be enough to make it so Ireland is going to qualify in this semifinal? Probably not. But am I happy that they are at least doing something and giving us something to see? I mean, and also too, like, let's be real, like the vocal is going to be good. This is going to be well executed on the stage ultimately. So that's my reaction to Ireland's first rehearsal for Eurovision 2023. That's my reaction. Malipoplitsikopat. Okay. Let's talk about Croatia's first rehearsal in Liverpool. I think I actually might like the song more. I'll tell you this, every time I see Let 3 in interviews, I like them more. And I said from jump, like when I first reacted to the song, when we didn't have all the songs, I was kind of like, well, you know, let's see what else we get. And honestly, like we're probably going to get stuff that's better. So I'd rather have like the better melodic songs advance over this one. But now I'm living in a world where I kind of want it to qualify. And I mean, it's like, at least Croatia is saying something. At least they're not boring me to death. Like, at least the visual is good. Like, the staging, they really have elevated from what they did at the national selection. They're not really doing anything new, per se. It really feels just like what they did, but just elevated. I think the LEDs are visual. They'll be impactful. Here's one thing that actually just sort of hit me. You know, we didn't get Georgia's song last year, and random, I'm kind of like, oh, like a little bit of the styling and package kind of reminded me of that. Like I sort of forgot, and we didn't get it last year. So now, I don't know, I'm beginning to live in this world where I'm like, what if we don't get Croatia? And like, I'm starting to live in this world where I'm like, what if we don't get Croatia? And I actually might be kind of changing my mind and saying like, no, like, let's get it. I don't know. What? Look, in my semifinal one qualifiers video, I put Croatia in and qualifying. I did say that they're going to qualify. Honestly, there's something really intentional about what I'm seeing so far from them. And I mean, it was intentional before, but here's where I think the song comes down a little bit. We got to be real, okay? I wish that our lead singer was able to stay on the pitch and key and not get flat, because there are times when he's a little bit flat, and even in the vocal check that they have like uploaded, like he was flat. He wasn't really on. So I wish that sonically this song was as clean almost as the visual. Does that make sense? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Well, thank you for some styling, Switzerland. I have to say, I'm so excited that we have moved past that stage of Eurovision where the male performers were just wearing like shirts and slacks and then like god awful denim. Oh, I'm so glad that like our male performers are now actually giving us like styling. It needed to happen. Ultimately, you know, dang, y'all. Are we about to have like Switzerland qualify? That's how I feel. Like watching this, I'm now like, oh, Switzerland's gonna make it through. I mean, look, this sounds good. I don't think that we were worried about the vocal, and so the vocal's not letting us down in any way, shape, or form. So I appreciate that. I like the fact that we have actually the contemporary dance moment. Like anything that enhances and doesn't distract, I'm down for. I'm curious to see how this actually looks like, on camera, because sometimes dancers can be distracting. And I think some of what made Switzerland qualify last year, I think there was something to be said for having Marius like sort of alone on the stage and just interacting with some thoughtful like LED moments and keeping it kind of simple. In this semifinal, Switzerland probably wasn't going to be able to like keep things simple. Like you really did have to do something impactful. Where I am challenged is that this was not a song that I necessarily needed to see advance this year, and definitely not from this semi. But I will say, and I say this with like a heavy heart, I don't know, maybe there is a world where we get Switzerland and the Netherlands, and then Latvia has to sit out, because honestly, with the staging package, I think Latvia is just like copy and pasting. And I don't think that they were in a position where they should have been copying and pasting. Switzerland's, this was promising. This was promising. I think that this is going to look really, really good. And I don't know, maybe there is a world where we get Croatia and Switzerland. We get both of our kind of like political statement songs. A slow one, more, thoughtful, and then, Croatia being the bombastic one. Moldova is doing what they do best, and that is staging. Okay? I mean, Moldova is doing what they do. Honestly, there's still a lot of elements of what they did in the national selection. So there is a little bit of copy and paste happening here with Moldova. But I mean, I think it works ultimately. I think that they had all the elements, and then they're just sort of expanding upon those elements that they introduced to us on that small stage, and now just sort of magnifying it. I really like the styling changes and choices of the female backing vocalists. I know we had antlers before, and now we have like these sort of singular horns that kind of come together, and the imagery just is really striking and powerful. Honestly, I wasn't worried about this song qualifying. Like, Moldova has a pretty good track record. I think some people got worried because it's like, oh, they're in between Israel and Sweden. But I think it works to their advantage, because this song, in contrast to Sweden and Israel, it's so in-your-face ethnic. It's out of the box. It's a little bit mystical. And it just is so much of what a lot of people come to Eurovision for. And I mean, look, like, Moldova does really well when it comes to staging at Eurovision, and I don't think that they've fumbled the bag this year. This looks promising. It's going to look good. They haven't hurt their chances or anything like that. When the stars align, then I'll be there. I don't want to see any hate for what Sweden did. Sweden is bringing us what they did at Melody Festival. And Sweden typically does the copy and paste treatment. And in this case, it's great. Honestly, I'm seeing like a lot of like random discourse talking about like, oh, it's smaller. I mean, look, like, with these rehearsals, we're not seeing what's happening on the screen. We're only seeing like sort of the crowd shot. And this performance is a television show performance in the best way. I think a lot of people are talking about, oh, like the screens are smaller. And honestly, to me, that's probably a good thing. The benefit of this performance is that intimacy, that feeling that someone is almost like kind of whispering this story to you. And honestly, Sweden did intimacy really, really well last year with Cornelia. And I think they're doing it again this year with Loreen. There really isn't much that I would have changed from the Melfest performance other than like, okay, we got to figure out like the smoke thing, because that's something that can go wrong. And you want to sort of eliminate anything that could possibly go wrong. And it looks like they're creating more of that smoky atmosphere by way of the LEDs, which I think is interesting. I think I still might want like a dry ice moment if that's possible, just because there's something atmospheric about that. But again, that can be a really challenging thing. I mean, look, we weren't expecting Sweden to fumble the bag when it came to this. I had no notes before, and honestly, I don't really have any notes now. My only note, if I had to say anything, was that, we just need to create an environment in which Loreen is able to sing and deliver this vocally to perfection. That would be like my one thing, is we just want to create a scenario where basically no one can poke any holes in it.